The Missing Manuscript of Whiskerville Chapter 1, The Mysterious Manuscript in the heart of Whiskerville, a town enveloped in an atmosphere of mystery and art, stood an ancient floating library. This extraordinary building, built on a floating platform, was supported by a series of wooden pontoons and was anchored in the middle of Whiskerville Lake. The library was a place of serenity and knowledge, where the secrets of the past mingled with the dreams of the future. But it was not only the architectural beauty that captured the imagination of the inhabitants, it was also its janitor, Frederick Whiskerton. Frederick was no ordinary tailor. He was a tailor detective, known for his ability to solve intricate puzzles and his passion for fine fashion. In his elegant tweed suit and striped tie, he was a character who stood out in a crowd. His eyes, deep green, shone with curiosity and intelligence. Every day, Frederick devoted himself to his job as a tailor, creating custom-made clothes for the citizens of Whiskerville, but in his heart pulsed an adventurous soul, always looking for new mysteries to solve. One day, as the sun slowly rose above the calm waters of the lake, Frederick decided to visit the library to seek inspiration for a new outfit. As soon as he crossed the threshold, the scent of old books enveloped him like a familiar embrace. The library was silent except for the faint creaking of wooden planks under his feet as he moved among the shelves. The rare and dusty volumes told forgotten stories, and every corner seemed to hold a secret. While exploring, Frederick came across a little visited section hidden behind a large shelf of historical tomes. The books here looked older and worn. His attention was drawn to one volume in particular, a manuscript bound with a leather cord, the edges of which were worn time. Carefully he pulled it off the shelf and opened it. The yellowed pages contained drawings of lost works of art and handwritten annotations about puzzles to be solved. "What are you looking for, Frederick?" asked a familiar but unexpected sound. It was the librarian, an old owl named Archibald, whose piercing gaze seemed to peer deep into the soul of anyone who met him. "Archibald, look at this," replied Frederick, showing the manuscript. "It seems to contain clues to some missing works of art. It could be a priceless treasure. Be careful, young tailor," Archibald warned in a solemn tone. "The history of Whiskerville is studded with mysteries. Not all truth should be revealed. Some secrets are best left buried." Frederick shook his head, fascinated by the unknown. "But if lost works of art exist, we need to look for them. They could be part of our history." Archibald watched him for a moment, then sighed. "If you decide to go ahead, you should prepare yourself. There are greater forces at play than you can imagine." Despite the warning, Frederick felt drawn to the mystery. With the manuscript under his arm, he returned to his tailoring workshop, where he could examine the clues at leisure. As he worked, his thoughts were constantly enraptured by images of the works of art described in the manuscript. A marble sculpture, a painting by a well-known master, and an ancient tapestry said to contain a secret message. Frederick's mind crowded with ideas, and he soon realized that to solve the mystery he would need help. But who? The answer shone in his eyes: the art thief. The art thief was a legendary figure in Whiskerville, a charismatic anthropomorphic feline known for his cunning and charm. No one knew who he really was, but he was said to be a master in the art of theft and escape. Frederick had heard the stories about him, tales of how he had stolen famous works of art without ever being caught. But unlike the others, Frederick did not consider him a criminal. He believed that the art thief might have valuable information, and perhaps together they could solve the mystery. He thus decided to arrange a clandestine meeting. On a full moon night, he headed to the old pier, known as a meeting point for those seeking adventure and secrets. The moonlight reflected off the water, creating a magical atmosphere. Frederick felt a little nervous, but his determination overcame his anxiety. As he waited, the sound of waves crashing against the pier was the only noise that accompanied his thoughts. Suddenly a shadow materialized before him. It was the art thief, wrapped in a dark cloak, with an enigmatic smile that revealed a mixture of defiance and fascination. "Frederick Whiskerton," said the art thief, his melodious voice echoing in the night air. "What could a tailor, detective want with a thief?" "I need your help," Frederick replied, trying to keep calm. "I have discovered a manuscript about missing artwork. I believe you may have crucial information." The art thief watched him closely, his gaze as piercing as a moonbeam. "A manuscript, you say? Interesting. But why should I help you?" "Because together we could solve a mystery that threatens Whiskerville's art history," Frederick replied, feeling his own resolve growing. "And perhaps you might find something more valuable than art itself, the truth." The art thief laughed, a melodious laugh that mingled with the sound of waves. "Truth, are we sure that's what we're looking for? But all right, Frederick, I'm curious. Tell me more about this manuscript." As the moon shone above them, Frederick and the art thief began to discuss the mysterious manuscript and the puzzles they would have to solve. but they both knew that for every secret revealed there would be challenges and deceptions to face, and so in the middle of the night they ventured toward an uncertain destiny, united by their curiosity and the mystery surrounding them. Chapter 2. The Unexpected Alliance. The moon continued to shine over Whiskerville as Frederick Whiskerton and the art thief exchanged information about the manuscript. The coolness of the night carried with it a scent of adventure and danger. Frederick, with his spirit of inquiry, felt increasingly drawn to this enigmatic companion, who, despite his reputation as a thief, displayed a keen intelligence and irresistible charm. "Tell me about this manuscript," said the art thief, as he adjusted his cloak around his shoulders. "What exactly does it contain?" Frederick, visibly excited, began to explain. "The pages describe several lost works of art, but they are not just descriptions. There are clues leading to each of them. Some appear to be puzzles that, if solved, can reveal the location of these works." "And what are the main clues?" asked the art thief, his curiosity kindled. "The first clue concerns a famous painting by a local artist, one Lorenzo Furlani. The manuscript speaks of a heart of stone that holds the secret of the painting." "I can't imagine what it could mean," Frederick replied, rummaging through the yellowed papers. "Heart of stone," repeated the art thief, reflecting. "It could be a sculpture or a monument. We need to find out more about Lorenzo Furlani and his work." "That's right. I heard that his studio is located in an old mill a few miles from town. We could leave at dawn," Frederick suggested as a sense of excitement pervaded him. "A bold plan," said the art thief, tilting his head approvingly. "But first there is something I must tell you." Frederick looked at him curious. "What do you mean? You should know that I am not just a thief. My fame is the result of a much more complex game. I have my reasons for stealing, and they are not always what people think. There are forces at play that cannot be underestimated, and my alliance with you is not just a matter of curiosity. It is a matter of survival," the art thief explained, his tone becoming serious. What forces?" asked Frederick, his mind already in the grip of 1,000 questions. "There are people who want to keep certain truths buried. If your manuscript contains information that could challenge the power of these people, we could be in grave danger. We must move with caution," warned the art thief, his careful gaze scanning the surroundings. Frederick felt a chill run down his spine. His adventure was becoming more complex than he had imagined. "What do you propose to do?" "We need to gather information about the mill and Lorenzo Furlani. We can ask some questions around, but it's best to do it discreetly. I don't want to draw attention to us," replied the art thief, his mind already at work. "All right," agreed Frederick, feeling stimulated by the idea of a deeper investigation. "But how can we begin? I know an old friend who runs small art gallery in town. He might have information about Furlani's work." "Let's go see him," suggested the art thief, rising gracefully and heading toward the pier. Frederick followed, feeling a strange combination of excitement and trepidation. The idea of collaborating with a thief, no matter how charismatic and charming, made him uncomfortable, but he could not deny that it was only way to solve the mystery of the manuscript. After a short walk, they arrived in front of the gallery, a small building with a wooden sign creaking in the wind. The light inside was dim, but the atmosphere was warm and inviting. Upon entering, they were greeted by the scent of fresh paint and an array of artwork hanging on the walls, each with a story to tell. The gallery owner, a big cat named Montalbano, stood behind the counter, intent on arranging a painting. He looked up and smiled as he saw the two visitors. "Frederick, how nice to see you, and who is your mystery friend?" "This is the art thief, eh?" Collaborator Frederick replied, trying to maintain a neutral tone. Montalbano raised an eyebrow but asked no questions. "What can I do for you? We are looking for information about Lorenzo Furlani and some of his works." "Do you have any ideas?" asked Frederick, carefully observing Montalbano's reaction. "Furlani, huh? A talented artist, but his life was marked by tragedy. Many claim that he hid some of his most precious works that no one has ever seen." "Why the curiosity?" asked the big cat, peering at the two with interest. "We found a manuscript that talks about some missing works, and we believe Furlani may be involved," Frederick explained, noting how the art thief kept silent, attentive to every word. "A manuscript, you say? That should be interesting. But know, boys, that there are rumors about a mysterious treasure hunter who is looking for those very works. He is a powerful man and does not take kindly to those who meddle in his affairs," Montalbano warned, his tone becoming serious. Frederick exchanged a glance with art thief. "We know there are dangers, but we must find out the truth," he said determinedly. "If you want me to help you, you will have to move carefully. Furlani lives isolated in that mill, and he doesn't like visitors." "We could arrange an excuse to go there, but you will have to be very convincing," suggested Montalbano, apparently impressed by Frederick's determination. After a brief exchange of ideas, they decided to pose as two art collectors looking for rare works, thus justifying their visit. Montalbano offered to accompany them to lend more credibility to their story. With a plan in place, the three prepared to leave. The tension was palpable as they made their way to the mill, Frederick's thoughts crowded with possibilities and dangers. The art thief walked by his side. His mysterious presence seemed to envelop the entire environment. When they reached the mill, the sky began to turn red as the sun set on the horizon. The structure, ancient and majestic, stood like a silent guardian of the past. Frederick felt his heartbeat quicken, aware that once they crossed that threshold, they would enter a world of enigmas and secrets. "Ready?" asked Montalbano, casting one last glance at the two. "Ready," Frederick replied as the art thief nodded, his gaze focused and attentive. With a deep breath, Frederick stepped forward, ready to discover what lurked inside the mill and what truths would emerge from the shadows of the past. Chapter 3. The Shadow Mill. The wind whispered through the wooden planks of the mill, creating an atmosphere charged with mystery and anticipation. Frederick Whiskerton, in his tweed coat and distinctive top hat, advanced cautiously, following Montalbano and art thief. Every step he took seemed to resonate like an echo in the darkness of the place, and the warm light of dusk slowly faded, giving way to an enveloping darkness. The mill was vast and imposing, with the blades silhouetted against the night sky like the claws of an ancient animal. The structure was partly abandoned, but a palpable presence of life and history hung in the air. The smell of weathered wood and fly ore mingled with a slight dampness while moonbeams filtered through the cracks, creating dancing shadows on the walls. "This is where Lorenzo Furlani spent his last years," Montalbano whispered, his tone grave. "Rumor has it that he turned part of the mill into a secret studio. If there are hidden works, they are likely to be here." Frederick nodded, his heart pounding excitement and fear. "We have to be cautious. We don't know what we might find and who might be there," he replied, casting furtive glance at the art thief, who seemed to be completely at ease in the darkness. The art thief, with his black cloak billowing like a shadow, suddenly stopped. "Listen," he said, his ear attentive to catch every sound. "There is someone here." Frederick paused, his detective instincts activated. "We should hide," he suggested, his mind already in motion. "If someone saw us come in, we could be in trouble." Montalbano nodded and led the two into a dark corner behind some old wooden crates. From there they could observe without being noticed. A moment later, the figure of another feline emerged from the darkness, a slender, agile cat with a top hat similar to Frederick's. "That's him," murmured the art thief. "That's the treasure hunter Montalbano was talking about." Frederick watched the intruder, his gaze piercing and the way he moved with confidence. "Who is he?" he asked, curiosity and apprehension mixed in his voice. "His name is Victor Skura. He is known for his ingenuity and ruthlessness. If he is here, it means he is looking for something important," replied the art thief, his tone grave. Victor Skura stood in the center of the room, carefully examining every corner. With an expert gesture, he pulled a metal object out of his pocket, a device that emitted a slight buzzing sound. "Where are you, Lorenzo?" He muttered to himself, his gaze as sharp as a blade. "We must act," whispered Frederick, his mind racing. "If Skura finds Furlani, we cannot allow him to find out what we know." "Lorenzo Furlani is not here," said the art thief, his tone calm but firm. "But we could distract him and buy time to look for information." "How?" asked Frederick, his mind already reeling. "I'd make some noise on the other side of the mill," proposed the art thief, his sly smile lighting up his face. "That might work." Frederick could not help but admire her courage and cunning. "All right, but be careful," he warned, knowing the risk was high. The art thief silently walked away, while Frederick and Montalbano stood by, heart in their throats. After a moment that seemed like eternity, a thunderous noise rang out on the other side of the mill, echo of a falling crate followed by a cry of surprise. "What the hell?" exclaimed Skura, turning sharply toward the source of the noise. His attention was completely distracted. "Now," whispered Frederick, and with Montalbano at his side, they moved in the opposite direction, trying to find access to Furlani's study. The mill rooms were a labyrinth of corridors and closed doors. Each step was a risk, but the determination to discover the truth overcame any fear. Frederick felt alive, immersed in an adventure that was taking him beyond the confines of his daily life. "We should look through the books and art materials," Montalbano suggested. "Furlani was an artist, and he may have left traces of his work here." Frederick nodded, heading toward a door that seemed to lead to an attic. Cautiously he opened it and entered. Moonlight filtered through a broken window, illuminating dusty brushes and stacked canvases. His heart pounded as he began to rummage through the objects, looking for clues. "Look at this," Montalbano exclaimed, lifting an old leather-bound book. "It may contain valuable information." Frederick approached and looked at the title, The Art of Lorenzo Furlani, A Journey Through His Works. With trembling hands he opened the book and began flipping through the yellowed pages. The illustrations of paintings and sketches struck him deeply. "These are magnificent," he said, spellbound, "but there is something more." Shortly thereafter, between the pages, he discovered a folded piece of paper. Opening it, he read the words written in elegant characters, "Truth is hidden in the heart of stone. Only those who seek with passion will find what is lost." "The heart of stone," Frederick repeated, feeling a chill run down his spine. "It's a clue," but the art thief who had returned looked worried. "We have to go right away. Skura is approaching. We don't have time." Frederick quickly closed the book and put it away. "Let's go," he said, the sense of urgency urging him to move. The stone heart might lead us to another missing work of art. They exited the attic and hurried toward the exit, but as they crossed the corridor, they heard the voices of Skura and his henchmen approaching. "We can't go back," Montalbano murmured, his face tense. "We have to find a way out." "There is a back window," suggested the art thief, pointing to a back door. "If we can reach it, we could escape." Frederick and Montalbano followed the art thief, moving quickly but silently. Each step was an act of courage, each breath charged with adrenaline. They reached the door and with a decisive blow opened it, finding themselves facing a small courtyard behind. Frederick exclaimed, but his relief was short-lived. The sound of heavy footsteps approached, and the trio stopped just short of freedom. "We must move," ordered art thief, as he launched himself through the yard, with Frederick and Montalbano following behind. With one last push, they jumped over a rusty gate and found themselves outside the mill in the dark of night. The scent of fresh grass and free wind greeted them, but was no time to enjoy their newly won freedom. Toward the woods pointed the art thief, and without hesitation they headed for the trees, their safe haven. Once in the thick of the forest, they stopped to catch their breath. Frederick felt his heartbeat quicken, but the adrenaline made him feel alive. "What do we do now?" he asked as he tried to regain control of the situation. "We need to analyze what we have discovered," Montalbano replied, adjusting his hat. "The stone heart is our next goal. We need to figure out what it represents and how we can use it to find Furlani's works." The art thief nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "And we have to watch out Victor Skura. He won't stop until he gets what he's after, and we've become part of his game." Frederick felt pervaded by a strange feeling of excitement and fear. Their adventure just beginning, and the shadows of the past were beginning to reveal themselves, promising secrets that could change the course of Whiskerville's art history. With the manuscript in his hands and an alliance with art thief, Frederick was ready to face whatever challenge came his way. Chapter 3. Shadows in the mill. The wind blew lightly as Frederick Whiskerton, the tailor, detective, stood in front of the old mill. The structure, with its stone walls and thatched roof, exuded a feeling of mystery that mingled with the crisp air of the evening. Frederick felt a chill run down his spine, not only from the cold, but from the anticipation of what they might discover inside. "Are you sure you want to proceed?" asked the art thief, his voice low and controlled, but with a hint of concern. "Furlani is a brilliant artist, but he is also a man who has lost a lot. He may not take well to having visitors." "We're just here to ask questions," Frederick replied, trying to remain calm. "We want to understand more about his works and that mysterious manuscript." Montalbano, who had remained silent until that moment, nodded. "Remember, we will have to be diplomatic. Curiosity can be dangerous, but if we approach with respect, we might get some answers." With a firm nod, Frederick approached the mill door, which creaked at his touch. Upon entering, he was greeted by a smell of aged wood and dust, an aroma that spoke of buried histories and forgotten works. The interior was simple, with wooden shelves filled with art materials, unfinished paintings and work tools scattered everywhere. "Furlani," called Frederick, his voice echoing in the silent air. "We are here to visit you." After a moment of waiting, a figure emerged from the shadows. Lorenzo Furlani was an anthropomorphic feline of large stature, with a coat of gray fur and piercing eyes that shone with intelligence and melancholy. He wore a paint-stained apron, and his fingers were covered with paint marks. "Who are you, and what do you want?" he asked, his voice deep and authoritative as he approached cautiously. "I don't like interruptions." "We are art collectors," Montalbano replied, trying to assume a reassuring tone. "We heard about your works and wanted to discuss some of them with you." Furlani peered at him, apparently skeptical. "Collectors, you say, and what works are you interested in?" Frederick stepped forward, trying to maintain a calm expression despite the anxiety that gripped him. "We are particularly interested in learning about your series of paintings inspired by nature. I've heard that some have been hidden since your tragic loss." The mention of tragedy seemed to strike Furlani. His eyes, from a deep blue, became glazed with nostalgia. "My wife's death was the end of my creativity. I no longer painted like I used to," he replied, his voice trembling with emotion. "But your works are priceless," the art thief intervened, his voice melodious and charming. "There are rumors that you have created something extraordinary, works that no one has ever seen." An expression of distrust crossed Furlani's face. "And who told you about me? I'm not interested in hype or fame. My art is just a reflection of my soul." "We heard about a manuscript that mentions some of your work," Frederick continued, trying to gain the artist's trust. "It is said to contain clues to hidden treasures. Could you know anything about it?" Furlani paused, his eyes narrowed as he reflected. "A manuscript, you say? I've never heard of such a thing. But if it's true, then there are things that should stay buried." "Why?" asked Frederick, curiosity driving him to investigate. "What is so dangerous about those works? There are forces that want to keep certain truths hidden," Furlani replied, his tone suddenly grave. "My art is being used for purposes I never imagined. There are people in Whiskerville who do not want the truth to come out." The art thief approached, his gaze attentive. "Who are these people? And why would they have an interest in your works?" "My works are about lost stories, about events that some people would like to forget. There are secrets in that manuscript that could change everything," Furlani explained, his face tense. "But I don't want to get involved. I've lost too much to risk it again." "You are in danger," Lorenzo Montalbano said, his tone becoming serious. "If there are people who want to keep secrets, they will not hesitate to strike anyone who gets in their way." Furlani turned around, his gaze fixed on an unfinished painting hanging on the wall. "I can't fight any more. I have tried to protect what remains of my art, but pain is a difficult companion. If you want answers, you'll have to look elsewhere." Frederick felt frustrated. "But we are here to help you. If the manuscript is true, we can find out who is trying to hide the truth." Silence fell in the room, charged with tension. Furlani turned back to them, his eyes fixed on Frederick. "If you really want to help me, you will have to face danger. But know that I cannot guarantee your safety. The truth can be a double-edged sword." "We will do whatever it takes," Frederick replied, the determination resonating in his voice. "But first we need to know more about that manuscript and what it contains." Furlani sighed, his expression looking like a mixture of sadness and determination. "All right, I'll tell you what I know, but you will have to promise to move carefully and not to endanger anyone." Frederick and the art thief exchanged a glance. "We promise," they said in chorus. "There are a few places that may hold clues to lost works," Furlani began, his voice growing quieter. "One of them is the old city cemetery, where some of my predecessors rest, artists who influenced my work. They say one of them left a hidden message. And where is this message?" asked the art thief, interest shining in his eyes. "He is said to be buried near the grave of Isabella, a painter who struggled for recognition during her lifetime. Legend has it that he created a work that has never been revealed," Furlani explained, his gaze straying into the past. "We have to go there," Frederick said, his heart beating wildly. "But first we have to get ready. We don't know what's waiting for us." "That's right," confirmed the art thief, his mind already at work. "We'll have to be ready for anything. This mystery is getting deeper and deeper. And remember, you are not alone. If you decide to face the cemetery, I will accompany you," Montalbano added, his words laden with support. With a plan in mind and a new determination, Frederick and the art thief prepared for their next adventure. Night was approaching, and with it the shadows of the past they would have to face. Chapter 5. The Secret of the Mill. The mill stood before them, an imposing structure of wood and stone that told stories of a distant time. The blades, motionless, seemed to guard the entrance like silent sentinels. Frederick Whiskerton, his heart pounding, stepped forward, followed by the art thief and Montalbano. Dusk light filtered through the dusty windows, creating an atmosphere of mystery and anticipation. "Remember, we will have to be cautious. Furlani is not one to be taken lightly," Montalbano warned as they approached the creaking wooden door. Frederick nodded, feeling the responsibility resting on him. This would be their chance to find out the truth about the missing artwork and the mysterious manuscript. Gently pushing open the door, they entered the mill. The interior was dark and dusty, with the scent of aged wood filling the air. Each step produced a muffled sound, as if the place itself was holding its breath. Frederick lit a small lantern, illuminating the surrounding area. The walls were adorned with sketches and notes, unfinished works by Lorenzo Furlani, telling of a tormented and brilliant artist. "We need to find Furlani," Frederick said, examining his notes. "If the manuscript mentions him, chances are he has valuable information." "Where do you think he might be?" asked the art thief, peering into the darkness with sharp eyes. "There is a back room, it could be there," Montalbano replied, pointing to a half-open door. Cautiously they approached, and after a brief exchange of glances, Frederick slowly opened the door. The room was small and messy, with canvases leaning against the walls and colors scattered everywhere. In the center, on a wooden table, was a large painting covered by a cloth. But it was not the painting that caught Frederick's attention. It was the figure of Lorenzo Furlani, an anthropomorphic feline with gray fur and piercing eyes, who was staring at the trio with a curious expression. "Who are you? What do you want?" asked Furlani, his voice deep and melodious. "We are art collectors," Montalbano replied, trying to keep calm. "We've heard about your work, and we're here to see if there are any pieces we can purchase." Furlani scrutinized him carefully, then his gaze shifted to Frederick, an art thief. "What about you, Frederick Whiskerton, the famous tailor?" "Detective, I wasn't expecting you here." Frederick felt impressed. "How do you know me? Rumors run fast in this small town, but it doesn't matter." "You are not here just to buy art, are you?" Furlani tilted his head, an enigmatic smile that was drawn on his face. "We found a manuscript that talks about missing artwork," Frederick explained, deciding to be honest. "We believe you can help us understand what happened." Furlani's face became serious. "That manuscript has brought more trouble than you can imagine. There are forces at play that want certain truths to remain buried. We've been warned about a treasure hunter," the art thief intervened, his tone grave. "We are trying to stop him before he can damage you and your artwork." Furlani stood up, his gaze fixed on them. "If you really want to find out the truth, you will have to face the consequences. But first you must see this." He walked over to the table and lifted the cloth, revealing an extraordinary painting, a Whiskerville landscape, but with details that seemed to conceal a secret message. "This is my most valuable work," Furlani said, "but it's not just a painting. It is a clue. Every color, every brushstroke tells a story. If can decipher its meaning, you might find what you are looking for." Frederick approached, watching carefully. "I have seen this landscape before. It is similar to the one in the Central Park near the fountain." "That's right," Furlani confirmed, "but there is one detail that few people notice. Look at the stone heart hidden in the scene." Frederick and art thief exchanged a glance. "The heart of stone," Frederick murmured. "Is this the secret that will lead us to the missing works?" "Exactly. But you will have to move quickly. The treasure hunter is already on your trail," Furlani warned, "and he is not an opponent to be underestimated." "How can we deal with it?" asked the art thief, determination shining in his eyes. "You will have to be cunning and quick. The stone heart is located in the park, but it will not be easy to reach it. You will have to find a way to distract him while one of you infiltrates to retrieve what is hidden," Furlani explained, his gaze growing serious. With a plan in mind, Frederick and art thief prepared to move. Montalbano, feeling part of their ingenious plan, decided to join them. "I cannot let you face this danger alone. We will all go together." They walked out of the mill, determination pulsing in their hearts. The moon was high in the sky, lighting the way as they headed toward the Central Park. Each step seemed charged with tension and adrenaline. When they arrived at the park, they stopped to look at the fountain. The stone heart had to be somewhere nearby, but how would they find a way to distract the treasure hunter? "We should create some kind of diversion," Frederick suggested, "something that can draw his attention away from the heart." The art thief smiled, a flash of cunning in his eyes. "I could use some of my skills." With an agile movement, he climbed a nearby tree, preparing a perfect plan to attract Hunter's attention. "When he starts to get distracted, you and Montalbano will have to look for the stone heart," Frederick said, the strategy taking shape in his mind. Montalbano nodded, his determination reflecting the gravity of the situation. "We must act quickly. We can't let them surprise us." As art thief positioned himself, Frederick and Montalbano approached the fountain. The atmosphere was charged with tension, and every sound seemed amplified in the stillness of the night. Then the art thief began to move, throwing object toward another part of the park, creating a noise that attracted the hunter's attention. "Now," shouted Frederick as they rushed toward the stone heart. With their hearts in their throats, they scanned the surrounding area, trying to find the place where the secret had been hidden. Finally, behind a large tree, they found a small hollow in the ground. Inside, there was an ancient chest, decorated with intricate patterns that shimmered in the moonlight. Montalbano knelt down and lifted the lid, revealing an array of lost paintings and artwork. "We found what we were looking for," exclaimed Frederick, his heart filling with joy as he gazed upon Furlani's treasures. "But time was limited. We have to get back to the mill before the hunter notices our presence," Montalbano said, his gaze alert. As they hurried toward the mill, the art thief quickly returned, his face serious. "I saw the hunter. He is closer than we thought. We must move now." With treasure in hand and a sense of urgency driving them, the three headed for the mill, ready to reveal truth and defend Whiskerville's artistic legacy. The night was full of mystery, but their determination was stronger. Inside the mill, Furlani was waiting for them, his gaze swinging between surprise and admiration. "Did you find the stone heart?" he asked, visibly impressed. "It is here," Frederick replied, opening the chest and revealing the treasures to the artist. "We must protect them from those who seek to destroy our history." Furlani examined the works, his eyes lit up with new hope. "Thanks you, my work and my story will not be forgotten. But now we must prepare ourselves. The hunter will not stop easily." With the determination to face any challenge, Frederick, the art thief, Montalbano, and Furlani joined in an unexpected alliance. Although the mystery of the manuscript had been unraveled, the real adventure was only beginning. The struggle for art and truth continued, and together they would confront the darkness that threatened to engulf Whiskerville.